Hey everybody, welcome to a live stream. I've never really tried this before, but I guess there's first time for everything. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do. Uh, I have a Quadra 605 motherboard that I picked up recently as part of a parts lot with some other damaged pieces of Mac equipment. And it don't look in too good a shape. So I think what we're going to do this evening is we're going to kind of clean up the big mess of this, and then we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of alcohol and stuff on it and just clean it up a tiny bit and see what's what. From memory, this is where the battery lives in the Quadra 605 and LC475 and all related models. And that corner of the board seems to be in pretty bad shape. This may end up just being a parts board that maybe I'll send off to Bruce or Joe or somebody that maybe they can salvage some pieces off of here to help some other Macintosh people. But let's go ahead and let's do a little bit of cleaning and see what we can see. So anyway, I might get tied up in just kind of the cleaning process, and so if I get a little quiet, I apologize. Hey, I also want to say big thanks to my friend Phil at Philtography for using his 3D printer and printing me this really neat Macintosh little doodad for like a monitor or something like that. It's kind of flexible, so I don't want to mess with it too much. I don't want to pop any of the letters off, but this was a really nice thing that he did for me. So thank you, Phil. So I've got the basic tools and stuff that I kind of use on these type of projects. I have a paintbrush that's synthetic paintbrush that's kind of got a little bit of a stiff bristle, so that way you can knock big stuff off. I've got a toothbrush. I have a eraser. This is not a fiberglass eraser or anything like that. This is just a regular old eraser, but sometimes this does a really good job at knocking stuff off. I have a couple of spudgers for stuff that requires a little bit of mechanical encouragement. I have a copper brush, safety squints, and then I've got, this is basically Simple Green. It's kind of a very light acid that can kind of neutralize. I know a lot of people will use vinegar, and I've got vinegar and things like that, but this works really, really well. Makes a nice little foam. You can kind of agitate it with a toothbrush and stuff. It does a really good job at cleaning things up. I used it to restore my Color Classic motherboard. I used it to restore my before I killed it, my LC2 motherboard and a couple of other projects. Cleaned some things up on a 2GS motherboard and some other stuff. And then, of course, unobtainium in many parts of the US, 91% isopropyl alcohol. But that should be basically everything that we're going to need to go through and to do our cleanup. I'm going to do my best to not shake the camera. The camera is mounted to a microphone, adjustable sort of swing arm, but I'm going to do my best not to bump into it. But if people get seasick, I apologize. So I think first things first, let's go ahead. We're going to, and I also have this great Faberware 9x9 baking dish. So as you can see, it's seen a few projects over the years. But, if you want to make some brownies or you want to clean up some motherboards or something like that, hey, it works really well. And it's well sized for little projects like this because, you don't have to use as much cleaning material to get the job done with these. So that's why I kind of like it. Of course, just right at the outset, we see we're missing our LC 68040 processor. That was not part of this setup, so I actually ordered one on eBay recently to just have on hand for testing purposes because I don't want to take the one out of my main Quadra 610. But, you know, if this cleans up decently, it'll be kind of fun. I'll pop that processor in there, maybe do a video in the future just to kind of show where that all ended up. So let's go ahead and knock some big stuff off. Oh, wait, yeah, of course. Got to engage those safety squints. You got to make sure that you kind of protect yourself a little bit. You don't want to have big chunks of rust and, you know, stuff flying in your eyes. Let me see. I can already see that there's some chunks coming off. We might lose a few components. That is just the kind of the way that this works. It's not going to be pretty, this much damage. There are a few capacitors that are also missing off the board, but the traces appear to still be there. Something else you have to think about with all the dust with this is you might want to wear a respirator or something like that as well. Just basically because you are kicking up a lot of dust on some of these older things. Unfortunately, all my masks are out in the car. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep the dust down. That's why I'm kind of knocking stuff down into the pan here rather than just flicking it up in the air as much as I can. So that is probably all the loose stuff that is going to come off just using the big brush. I do see a few things kind of bouncing off here and there. Don't want to knock any components off if I don't have to, but okay, that is probably as good as it's going to get without really giving it some mechanical encouragement. Probably at this point I could get in here with the spudger and kind of break up, especially kind of in this bigger area down here. I have to apologize. I don't have a secondary display that is kind of showing me what you guys are seeing. That'll be something maybe for the future to add. So I hope I'm doing my best to kind of keep everything in frame. If I move out of frame for a minute, I apologize. But again, I can't see 100% what you guys are seeing. So I'm just going to go through, yep, there we go. We lost a component there. But it's just a, it's just a capacitor. So it's something that likely would need to be replaced anyway. So no big deal. The pads still look to be in place for as much as they are with all the goop in the way that I can't really tell at the moment. So I actually I got another little component, another cap, and you can see the base. Oh, there it goes. The base of it just flew off there. So, but I have a fun kind of history with the Quadra 605. I really do like this machine. It was, I think, an introduction, or maybe slightly after introduction. Oh, another cap. Yeah, these are just barely hanging on down here because of the corrosion. But kind of, yeah, just barely hanging on. You knock the dust off of them, they're gone. But it's no big deal. You'd have to replace these caps anyway, probably, on this level of damage. But when the Quadra 605 kind of came out, I remember being really enamored with that machine because I think my primary Mac that I was using at the time was like a PowerBook 100 or something like that. So not a great machine, but I was a student, so it was kind of nice to have a laptop that you could kind of drag with you. And in those days, kind of maybe a high-end laptop might be like a 486. I didn't really know anybody that had anything higher end than that, just because, oh my gosh, you can't even imagine the costs. I bought my, and I couldn't have bought a PowerBook 100 when it was new. I bought mine secondhand from a instructor at a local university who, I think I paid $700. That was a lot of lawns to mow. But it was the PowerBook 100 with like 2 megs of RAM, 20 meg hard drive, and the floppy drive. So that was a great machine. It was a lot of fun. And with that battery and like System 608 on it, dude, that guy would just run forever on battery power. But anyway, a time came a couple years later that I really needed to get an improved machine for school because, that little PowerBook 100 had did its job. But just to be fair, it was really long in the tooth. I mean, in those days, System 7 was a thing. System 7.1 would have probably been fairly new. And that PowerBook 100 with like 2 megs RAM could not run System 7. So newer versions of some programs just didn't want to work as more and more people kind of adopted System 7. And I had saved some money and done some odd jobs and things like that. And I had convinced my dad to take me to like CompUSA or something like that. And we were going to go ahead and look at maybe me purchasing a better Mac. And I had been saving money for quite a while, like several years of like birthdays and Christmas and just like different sort of holiday kind of things to kind of have some money on hand. And what ended up happening was we went to CompUSA and we looked at the Quadra 605, which again, really enamored with that machine. And my dad was like, they have this other machine here that is a Quadra 610. And this machine has like twice the memory, and it's got a CD-ROM drive, and it's got, oh my gosh, like yada yada. I mean, it had like the Mathco, and you could do Ethernet. None of that really mattered at the time, but my dad said, "Hey, if you really wanted to upgrade, I'll pay the difference for you to get the Quadra 610." And I really kind of like had to think about it because I was like, I appreciate it, and it's kind of a, your parents want to see you succeed, and they want to kind of have a hand and maybe helping you out with things and all that. But I was kind of like, you know what? I was going to do this on my own. I had like saved all this money, and it was like, it was going to be my thing. But my dad kind of convinced me that I was like, hey, it's for the best, and, you might get more use, and it'll last longer and stuff, and there'll be, other neat things. It's got an expansion slot. You could probably get a card one day or something, even though he had no idea like what that was all about. And so I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. So we went home with a Quadra 610. And a friend of mine, like, that lived across town, this guy was several years older than me. He was college age at that time. He was like, hey, you got to come by and see this new Mac that I just bought. And I was like, what? If you were going to buy something, you would have said something. So I go over to his house, and he had a Quadra 605. So I got to still kind of play around and do some fun stuff with the 605. I thought the form factor was really neat, and it was kind of semi-portable, maybe in a way. And anyway, but that's kid stuff or whatever. So, all right, I think that I have got. You saw me do a dump there while I was telling the story. I went through and I just kind of knocked, and some of those components and stuff that had come off. I didn't want to throw those away because I might go through those later just to see exactly what fell off. But I think we're at the point where we can probably go ahead and start getting this board using some chemical encouragement to go ahead and try to get the board a little cleaner. But I want to check chat for a second. Oh, it's Retro Trek Chris. Hey, Chris. Thanks for tuning in for my first little thing here. So, all right. So, again, Zep is maybe kind of, I think, the Lowe's brand for, like, Simple Green. But it's a all-purpose kind of cleaner. If we look at the ingredients here on the back, it has alcohol and glycerin ethers. Probably don't want to get this into your eyes. Probably want to get it off your skin if it's on there. But as it has been explained to me, It is kind of like Simple Green in a way that you can use it to kind of degrease and clean up. And since it does have sort of a mild, it's, I guess, mildly, oh, come on here. What is the dealio? There we go. Mildly acidic, the solution. So it can neutralize some of that the acid from the capacitors and things like that. So I've had really good luck with it. I am sure, like all YouTube videos, that there will be plenty of people telling me that I'm doing the wrong thing. And honestly, I want to hear your opinions. If you think that this is like, oh, well, it was already dead, but you've double deaded it, I want to hear that too, because I'm always looking for ways to improve. And I know a lot of people take things very, very seriously, and they absolutely get really mad because it's like, oh, I'm an expert and I know everything. And there are some very talented people in our community, but I think that everybody needs to remember that feedback is a gift, and it's probably some of the best gift that people can give you, just because it gives you an opportunity to think about like what you say or what you do or how you do something, and gives you an opportunity to improve. And everybody, regardless of what you do in your professional life or in your personal life, hobbies or just anything, you should always strive to improve. You should always try to do things a little bit better every day than you did the day before. Because to just, ooh, look at that, ain't that pretty? Because to just kind of like be stagnant in your life and kind of in your ways of doing things, I'm not really sure that helps anybody, and it definitely doesn't help you. You want to every day be challenging yourself, or every day be striving to learn something new. That's why I think YouTube is so amazing, because it really gives you an opportunity to get outside your box and learn things. So a kick I've been on recently is there are people that have lots of great videos about how, like, action figures and how plastics and how just a lot of things in our modern world are kind of produced. And there's a lot of these things, especially with like mold making and all that for the plastics industry. I had no idea just how crazy expensive all that is. And I have a lot of respect for people that kind of work in that world, just because, oh my gosh, like some of the bucks that they use to produce some of the just even small things that have moving parts. They might be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or for like action figures and things like that, you might be looking for like a simple figure. You might be looking at as much as like a luxury car. So you always have to kind of keep in mind like what you're spending and what you might make back on it, just through retail and all that. So I don't know. I just find that very interesting, just because that's not the world. That's not the world that I'm from. I am from a different place. So it's been kind of neat learning about that. Something else is, if you are a kid who grew up in the 90s, like I did, there was a great series at the time that was called, it was from ITV4 in the UK. It was called The Secret Life of Machines. And the gentleman who produced that show, or was the presenter slash writer, and basically just kind of did everything on the show. There were a couple of series that were produced, but he's been digitizing because I guess, a lot of those shows in the old days were shot on film. So he's been digitizing the film and uploading it in high definition to YouTube. Now, some of the episodes, I guess the film elements have been lost to time and to, you know, just kind of, you lose it, you don't have it, you know, but some of the stuff is still in the vault, I guess at ITV. But he's been able to get some of the film elements and restore it, and other episodes, just upscaled video that from best sources sort of thing. So if you're an archivist, you probably know all the trouble that goes into trying to find some of these old shows that are just seemingly lost to history. All right, so I have been scrub-a-dubbing on this board for a little bit here. Did I just... Nope, SimSocket looks good. I'm scrubbing on this board for a little bit. This is the part where we can kind of rinse it off a tiny bit with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. And again, just because this is in such short supply, we're going to be very ginger. You might hear a little bit of sound as the foam sort of breaks up because of the IPA. Not to be confused with India Pale Ale. And there you go. You can kind of see a little bit better what's happening on the board here. We do still have quite a bit of, making sure I'm still in frame here, corrosion and just gook up here. There are some areas where it is quite thick on this board. I don't want to dig too much because I don't want to scrape solder mask off. I definitely don't want to lift any traces. But it may come to that it needs a little bit more encouragement than kind of what I'm willing to give it. In which case you kind of let the board dry for a day and then you give it another go. But I would say that with some of that cleaned up out of there, I know that sounds really bad, but remember these are plastic, so it would be very, very difficult. Not impossible, but it would be difficult to lift a trace. Mostly what you're hearing is it's scraping along the top of that corrosion and knocking it off the board. And once it's gone, it's just skating right along the top of the solder mask, so it doesn't look too bad. Yeah, there are some bad caps on here. Like this one really is kind of swell up. You know, they all have to go on a long enough timeline. But there are some areas of the board here where things do look pretty good. Of course, it always looks really bad up here by where you actually have your battery damage. But I do think that we're doing some good. We're making some progress, which I guess is always important. And like Bruce always says, you gotta be patient. You gotta just kind of work and do no harm. Sort of like, you know, what your doctors say. A little bit more on there. Scrub it up now that we're down to a new layer of stuff. But you know, as long as I can see, I mean, if you scrub some simple green or dep kind of in an area of the board that is clean, it's white. You just get white foam. But down here I'm getting some discolored foam, which makes me realize that, yeah, it's coming up off the board. The goop and the gack And we got another little area over here where I was scraping that stuff up earlier. There was a cap there, and it definitely leaked. But yeah, all the rest of this is really battery damage. Really, that's very sad. And I hope before Macintosh is out that I am able to go ahead and produce a video I've been thinking about for a long time. It's sort of a short subject, but the idea is, you know, should you put battery back in your classic Mac? You're restoring your classic Mac, and you've decided that you cannot live without working date and time. You cannot live without being able to boot your Mac and have it remember how fast you want the mouse to move, you know, those sort of things. And you know, should you put one back in? I would say no. I would say no. If your Mac absolutely requires, like, it will not boot without a battery, then yeah, maybe I'd put one in. I would maybe try to not forget that there's a battery in there. I'd put a, oh, hey, look, oh, big chunk of junk moved finally. I would do my best to remember that it's in there. I would probably put a label on the front of my machine, or if I was really kind of a industrious Mac user, I might even try to rig up a way to have the battery external to the machine. But I don't know, man. In the last couple of years, I've just cleaned up too many Macs with battery damage to really feel comfortable putting a battery back in. I mean, I mess with this stuff all the time, but it seems like, or an avoidable death to forget a battery in your, you just restored your SE from when you were in college, or you restored your parents' Mac Classic or something like that, and dealt with all the normal sort of wear and tear that those machines get, and then just put a battery in it, and then you put it in the attic for a couple of years, and you get it back out, and yep, lo and behold, it's dead because the battery leaked. And so, all your labor is just gone, when you could have just not put one in there and still enjoyed a working Macintosh later on. So there's a couple little areas out here on the board. You probably can't see it because the webcam's not too high a quality, or it's 720p maybe or something like that. But there's a couple areas where there's stuff that obviously splashed over. But for the most part, things kind of sound okay. I'm not trying to dig on it too hard, especially around vias and stuff. I definitely don't want to, kill the machine or anything any worse than it's already dead. I mean, because it's definitely not powering on without a processor, but it was definitely probably not real good, just in general, because of that battery leakage. Alright, things are looking pretty good. Over here, if memory serves, this was a ROM socket or something like that that was never implemented, but they still got to be clean over there, or otherwise it's an area where your machine might not boot. Okay, so what do we got here? And this actually, now I'm looking at the model number here. This, yeah, all right. This may not have been a Quadra 605. This might have been one of those other models, Performa models or something. I don't know. I got a part number here. I'll have to look this up later. But it's darn close. It's darn close to a Quadra 605. Same family. So we will just go with that. But yeah, you're right. I pulled some dirty fluid up off the pan here and stuff. But all right. Thankfully, depth is in no short supply at the various depots of home and Lowell's around the U.S. We don't live in a big market. We do have a Menards, but you know, the joke is that with the way the entrances are set up, you go in at one town and you come out the next. I do like that place though. They do have some fun little things. I know that Ben Heckendorf has been posting videos recently where I say Heckendorf. Maybe that's not right. We'll just call him Ben Heck. It's not like we're buddies or anything. But Ben Heck, he's been posting videos, or posted some maybe a month or two ago, where he had picked up some like weird one-off kind of Chinesium kind of devices there, tech devices, like a smartwatch, and it was kind of neat. The smartwatch actually ended up having like a SIM card slot and an SD card slot, so it was actually kind of like a little phone. I never put a SIM card in mine just to test that, but it sure did look like it'd be kind of a Dick Tracy watch for, I guess, people that had an extra micro SIM laying around. Alright, now we're still getting some color. Woo! Still getting some color off that end of the board right there, but yeah, that's really quite a bit of corrosion if you remember at the beginning of the video. So I am thinking that we have scrubbed this within an inch of its life, and we may be at the point where you let it dry, you give it an alcohol bath, you let it dry, so that way that you can at a later time kind of assess the damage and see. But yeah, things look real good over here. I'm sure there's going to be somebody like, oh, I can't believe you drug it. You were just in all that corrosion. You drug it across the rest of the board. Well, don't worry. I'm gonna clean the whole thing with alcohol here in a minute, and hopefully that should clean everything up. All these little electrolytic caps will have to go at some point. I know that they're. I promise not to 8-bit guy it, where you just twist them off. I know that there are twisted off people, but oh man. I am not one of those folks. I'm definitely somebody who wants to try to do no harm. And that sounds like a lot of harm being done right there. But if you look, it's just another layer of the corrosion being revealed. Okay, that looks pretty okay right there. Yeah, I'll have to use the microscope at work to see how bad some of this is. I restored a SE a couple of months ago that had quite a bit of corrosion because of a battery problem, and I was able to I mean, some of it, like, it had bridged chips or grunge. It had a little grunge on it, and I was able to kind of fight through that and get it to where some of the chips looked like they had corrosion on the legs, but man, the machine booted and didn't have any trouble, so I was just kind of like, meh. If it works, I guess it works. It's an SE, so I mean, it's not like there isn't an abundance of those machines in the world, but it would be great if it did go ahead and work. Yeah, you can see chunks of rust, or chunks of corrosion. might be at the end here for some of this stuff until we can take a look at it. You know, when it's dry. Maybe get a multimeter out and kind of check and see how some of these connections are doing. All right, so I think what we'll go ahead and do, we will call it for the moment. We've got a lot of the big stuff off. Actually, I didn't even really look at the backside of the board. We can probably give this a clean, but just the backside looked pretty okay, and all of the I didn't see any obviously missing components or anything like that. Do have a little bit of corrosion down there. Couple resistors that, or a resistor that seems to be having a bad day. And this little discrete component right here, which I'm not 100% sure what that is. But we'll give everybody in the pool. Because again, even if this board, from my level of expertise, is like can't get it going, or you know, it's no good. Again, I can still send it off to one of the kind people in the Mac community that does recap and board level repair. That way that they can maybe assist other people, because you know, some of these proprietary chips on here, and it's not like Apple's making any new ones, so have quite a bit of corrosion on some of these ports back here. A lot of that is due to living in a barn, as some of these machines end up. Some of these machines end up living in barns and stuff. People got them from schools, and they're just like, yeah, we'll just put it in storage. And that storage ended up being someplace that wasn't climate controlled, or someplace that wasn't didn't have any sort of humidity blocked in there or anything like that. So yep, so you end up with corrosion. You end up with rust on some of those parts. Okay. Well, alright, so, well, of course you put the cap on the alcohol. You're not done. Alright. Okay, so I think we're at the point where we can go ahead and let this dry off overnight. And then we can take a look tomorrow. Oh, that's funny. When I flipped it over, a little tiny cap came off. So I have to find that, see where that guy came from. The microscope always helps. So, all right, well, go ahead and move this out of the way. We have our board here. We need a couple of non-reactive things, namely wood. And we will just balance that guy on there. So, all right, I'll let it clean up, or I'll let it dry off and take a look. As you can see, I need to go wash my hands. And hey, I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. I just thought this would be a fun thing to kind of do since I was doing it anyway. But everybody have a wonderful night, and if you are a content producer for YouTube, hey, get your Macintosh video in there, man, because or miss, because you know we're kind of coming here to the final days of the event, so it'd be great to see even more content. So everybody have a wonderful night, and I will talk to you soon. Apple II forever.